I used to imagine this moment happening in 100 different ways. Some nights it was my salvation. A warm hug, tearful reunion, promises to start over. Other nights it was punishment. Yelling, blame, doors slammed in my face. But no version ever felt quite like this. No version ever prepared me for what actually happened. My name is Lena. I'm 43 years old, and I haven't seen my daughter since she was taken from me at the age of 2. Social services didn't waste time. By the time I realized I needed help, she was already gone. That's what happens when you're deep in the bottle and even deeper in denial. I used to scream that they had no right, that she was mine. But that wasn't true. Not really. I was barely a person back then, let alone a mother. Her name is Haley. That's the only thing I've always held on to. I used to whisper it to myself when I couldn't sleep, like a prayer I didn't believe in. I never stopped loving her. I just stopped believing I deserved to. For the past 19 years, I've been bouncing around halfway houses, temp jobs, shelters, sometimes clean, often not. And through all that time, she reached out. I don't know how she kept finding me. Every time I changed my number or my email, it was only a matter of months before another message would appear. Hi, Mom. Just wondering how you're doing. Mom, I'm working at this new place if you ever want to stop by. I still think about you. I never replied. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't imagine what she'd say back if I did. The shame was a weight strapped to my chest every waking moment. When you've missed every birthday, every first day of school, every broken bone and heartbreak. What do you say? But something changed this year. Maybe it's my body slowing down. Maybe it's the coughing fits that rattle through my ribs like old bones. Or maybe it's the quiet. When you get older, the silence starts to feel more like a grave and less like peace. So I scrolled back through our old messages, heart thudding like I was about to steal something. And there it was, a text from 5 months ago. If you ever want to see me, I'm working nights now. Wendy's, on Silver Pine Avenue right off exit 43. She had added a heart emoji. I cried when I saw it. That was 3 days ago. Tonight I got as clean as I could, washed my hair in the shelter sink, put on the least wrinkled shirt I owned, and then I walked the 2 miles across town, past shuttered shops and boarded-up homes, until I found it. Wendy's. It sat at the edge of a cracked parking lot, its red and white sign flickering like a bad omen. The neighborhood wasn't much, mostly old strip malls and liquor stores with bars on the windows. But I wasn't expecting much. I just wanted to see her. Just once. Even from a distance. The inside was almost empty. A couple of teenagers whispered at a table near the back, heads buried in their phones. The rest of the place felt off. The lights were on but dim, like everything was cast in the same pale red glow as the sign outside. And right there at the register, standing completely still, was a young woman in a Wendy's uniform. I froze. It was her. Haley. She looked exactly like the picture in my wallet, an old photo from when she was 6. Printed from a newspaper article someone had mailed me once. Same round cheeks, same brown eyes, but older now. Tired. Her hair was pulled into a tight bun and her name tag, Haley, was pinned slightly crooked on her chest. She didn't move, just stared at me. I swallowed and stepped forward. My hands were shaking. Hi, I said. My voice cracked. Welcome to Wendy's, can I take your order? She replied instantly. The words came too perfectly, too mechanical, like they weren't really hers. My stomach twisted. I'm not here for food, I said. I'm here for you. She blinked, but her expression didn't change. I'm Lena, I whispered. Your mother. Silence. For a second I thought she didn't hear me. Then suddenly she smiled. It wasn't the smile I imagined. It wasn't warm or relieved or emotional. It was wide, too wide. The corners of her lips strained and her eyes remained lifeless. I knew you'd come, she said, her voice flat but louder now. I've been waiting. The teenagers in the back stopped talking. Something in me snapped. All my guilt, all my fear. It collapsed into something cold and clear. Haley, what's going on? Are you okay? She tilted her head slightly, like a broken doll. Why wouldn't I be okay, Mommy? My legs went numb. That word, Mommy, cut through me like a knife. She hadn't called me that since, well, never. She was taken too young to speak in sentences. She shouldn't remember. I'm sorry, I said. I should have come sooner. I wanted to. Why didn't you? I stepped forward. Because I was scared. Because I didn't want to ruin your life more than I already had. I don't blame you, she said. Her voice was calm now. I understand, but you don't have to run anymore. You're here, that's what matters. I looked around. The two teens were gone. No one else had come in. The kitchen was dead silent. No sound of fries bubbling or timers beeping. Not even music from the speakers. What is this place? I asked. Haley's smile didn't change. This is where people come to find closure, she said. You came to reconnect, and now, we'll never be apart. She reached across the counter. I took a step back, and that's when I noticed her hands. Too long. The fingers curved at unnatural angles, the nails like sharp glass. Her uniform was too tight around her shoulders, like her body didn't quite fit inside the skin it wore. Haley, I said, what happened to you? She climbed over the counter. I backed up into a booth. You left me, Mommy, she said, eyes wide now. But it's okay. You're here now. You'll never leave again. Her jaw unhinged slowly. Her voice split into two pitches, one soft, one low and rasping. This is what love feels like, she whispered. I screamed. I bolted toward the exit, but the doors wouldn't open. I slammed my fists against the glass. Help! Somebody help me! Behind me, I heard her limbs clicking as she crawled forward. You never answered my messages, she said, so I made a place just for us. I built it with my hands, my real hands. I turned and saw her shape twist, the skin rippling. Her face melted like wax, revealing something gray and wet underneath, like muscle stretched over bone. I didn't mean to hurt you, I sobbed. But you did, she said, almost tender now. You left a hole. I filled it, with rage, with grief, with love. She lunged. The pain wasn't instant. First came the heat, then the cold, then nothing. I don't know what I am now, not really. But I stand behind the counter every night, next to her. When people walk in, we smile. Welcome to Wendy's, I say. Can I take your order? They don't usually stay long, but sometimes they do, especially the ones who come looking for someone they've lost. Especially the ones who deserve to be found. And the collar on the uniform? Yes, it still says Mom. But now I know what it really means. Not a title, not a logo, not a coincidence. It's a promise, a warning, forever and ever. I never used to be like this. There was a time, maybe 5-6 years ago, when I went to work, paid my bills, smiled at cashiers, and watched movies like everyone else. I wasn't invisible, but I didn't need to be noticed either. Then something cracked. It started with a look. A girl in line at the grocery store, her hair damp from the rain, sticking to her cheekbones. Slim, no makeup, black straight hair, holding a single can of soup. She glanced over her shoulder at me and didn't smile, just blinked. And that was enough. I followed her out, watching the shape of her back as she got into her car. I didn't do anything, not then. But something inside me lit up, like someone had struck a match in a pitch-black room. And it never went out. In our small town, Marfield, South Dakota, it didn't take long for people to catch on. I never wore the same outfit twice. Beanie one day, hoodie the next, sometimes a baseball cap pulled low, always something plain. I changed shoes, even my walk. I couldn't afford to be recognized. Not after what I started doing. They called me the drive-through phantom on social media. Cringe name, I know. But it stuck. No one had caught me yet. No security cameras ever got a clear face. The police had rough sketches, but nothing useful. I only targeted girls with the same look, always from public places. The park, the outlet mall, once from the library parking lot. But Wendy's, that became my hunting ground. There was a girl there. She started working the drive-thru in late October. I didn't know her name at first, but I learned it was Lena from her name tag. She was exactly what I looked for. Small, reserved, that dark hair pulled back under her red Wendy's cap. The first time I saw her, she handed me a Frosty. I forgot to say thank you. I just stared. She paused like she noticed and gave a weird half-smile, polite but uncomfortable. That night I drove by again, watched her through the big glass windows as she swept the lobby floor. She worked late, probably the closing shift. I parked across the street, engine off. Just watched. 3 nights later I tried to follow her home. I waited until her shift ended and her little silver Kia pulled out of the parking lot. I kept several cars behind, headlights off. We didn't get far. She turned into the gas station, parked under a floodlight, and walked inside, probably to grab something quick. But that's when I saw him, a guy in sunglasses, leaning on the ice freezer outside the station. It was midnight. Why the hell was he wearing shades? He didn't smoke, wasn't talking to anyone, just watching. He turned his head slightly toward me. Not full on, just enough to make my gut twist. I drove off fast, too fast, didn't look back. The next night I tried again. No Lena, just some other kid at the drive-thru. I circled around and parked behind the dumpster. 5 minutes passed. 10. The dining area was empty. Then I saw her, mopping the tile, earbuds in. She looked tired, vulnerable. I waited. And then that same guy was there again. Not sunglasses this time, but a black jacket and boots. He leaned on the wall across the parking lot, hands in his pockets, looking in Lena's direction, or mine. My heart beat faster. I was being watched. I could feel it in my ribs. The next night, I wore a gray hoodie, mask tucked in my back pocket just in case. I went through the drive-thru around 10:30 p.m., ordered fries just to hear her voice again. I pulled up. It wasn't her. Some dude handed me my food. "That all for you?" I nodded, drove to the end of the lot, and parked. Waited. 10 minutes later, Lena came out the back door with a trash bag. She looked around before tossing it in the dumpster. She lingered, pulled out her phone, scrolled a bit. I opened my car door slowly, stepped out, and walked across the lot, keeping to the shadows. But the guy was there again. This time I saw his reflection first, in the Wendy's window, standing behind a row of bushes. He wasn't watching Lena anymore. He was watching me. I froze. He stepped out, calm, slow, didn't say a word. I backed off. "What the hell do you want?" He tilted his head. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. Something about his voice made the hairs on my neck rise. Cold, not angry, just detached. "I don't know you," I said, stepping sideways. "You need to leave me alone." He smiled, tight and dry. "You're not the only one with cravings, friend." My breath caught. I glanced toward the dumpster. Lena was gone. Door shut. I was alone with him. "You been following her too?" I asked, testing. His smile vanished. "Don't make this a competition. You'll lose." I pulled my mask from my back pocket slowly, not to use it, just to show I wasn't scared. He stepped forward. "Cute. You think she's your type?" I didn't answer. "I've seen the way you look at them," he continued. "You want to watch them beg. You don't know why, but it feels good, right?" I clenched my fists. "Who the hell are you?" He took another step. "You think you're the only shadow in this town? Look around." Sirens, Both of us paused. I turned my head just in time to see flashing lights rounding the corner. Someone had called the cops. The man backed into the darkness, fast and smooth like he belonged there. I ran. I sprinted to my car and peeled out. I didn't care about Lena, the guy, anything. I just wanted out. 2 days later, I was on foot. I ditched my car after someone reported the plates near the Wendy's lot. I wore a beanie now, walked with a limp I didn't have, still changing, always hiding, but I couldn't stay away. I needed closure. I needed Lena. So I came back. It was raining. Light drizzle. The lot was nearly empty. A now hiring sign flapped in the wind. I slipped around the back, crouched behind the dumpster. I could hear voices from inside. Then the back door opened. A flashlight beam hit my eyes. Freeze. I turned. 2 officers, guns drawn. I bolted, slipped on wet concrete, slammed my elbow into the pavement, screamed. They tackled me, pinned me. One yelled into his radio, "You got him? Is that the guy?" And then I heard her voice. "Lena." "I think so. That's the jacket. He's the one who watched me." They rolled me over. My mask fell from my pocket, and then from the shadows, I saw him again, the other man, leaning against a lamppost, watching. He gave me a salute, then turned and vanished into the dark. 2 weeks later, I sat in county lockup, bruised and waiting for arraignment. They'd only charged me with trespassing and stalking so far. No victims had pressed further charges. Maybe none had seen my face clearly enough, but I knew it wouldn't end there. Detective Sandra Voss walked into the room, early 40s, tired eyes, hair in a tight ponytail. She dropped a folder in front of me. "You've been busy, Ethan." I didn't reply. "Thing is," she said, sitting across from me, "we've got victims describing things you couldn't have done, places you weren't at. Looks like you've got competition." I stayed quiet. "You ever heard of a man named Ryan Hale?" I twitched. "Thought so," she smiled. "We've been tracking him longer than you, much longer. See? You just watched, maybe followed, maybe more. But he doesn't let them live." My heart pounded. "You're not the worst monster in Marfield, Ethan. Not even close." She leaned closer. "But you're the only one we've caught." That night, I couldn't sleep. My cell was cold, the bed harder than it looked. In the darkness, I heard something slip under the bars of my cell door. A note. Shaking, I picked it up. "You were sloppy. I cleaned up after you. Be grateful. But if you ever try to touch one of mine again, I'll visit. And I won't be gentle." I screamed for the guard, but no one came. And I knew then, this wasn't the end of the story. Not for Lena, not for me, and not for the other man watching in the dark. I hated mornings, not because I wasn't a morning person, actually, I was borderline nocturnal, but because mornings meant facing the world I was trying so hard to escape. That cold, fluorescent hum of the diner-style light fixtures, the too bright parking lot, and the smell of burnt coffee and fryer grease all hitting you like a punch in the face the second you walked in. And yet, here I was, punching the clock at a fast food joint called Wendy's Point, one of those franchise clones that littered the suburban strip mall like plastic litter in a storm drain. My name is Ethan Harper. I was 27, freshly divorced, and stuck in a rut I never thought I'd be in. A year ago, I was working a cubicle job downtown, a miserable routine of meetings and spreadsheets. I left that when the company went fully remote during the pandemic, something I actually welcomed. No more Subway sardine cans, no more mandatory fun Zoom calls. I could finally breathe. But then slowly something started to change. Remote work became remote prison. The connection wasn't just about internet speed or glitchy video calls anymore. It was about loneliness, isolation, and then paranoia. The company had announced that after 2 years of remote work, they were opening satellite workspaces in a few select cities. small shared office spaces meant to bring people together safely. I ignored it at first. I liked working from my cramped apartment, the one bedroom filled with secondhand furniture and half-empty boxes from my move 6 months ago. I liked being alone. But then the emails started. Not from HR, not from my manager. From a weird, untraceable address, the content typed in cold, threatening tones that didn't quite fit the corporate voice. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind. I wasn't always this drained. I grew up in a quiet town called Maplewood, a place where people still waved at each other in the grocery store aisles and kids played outside until sunset. After high school, I went to college nearby, studying graphic design, hoping for a career in something creative, something real. But life had other plans. The pandemic hit just after graduation. Jobs were scarce. I took the cubicle gig at a data firm because it paid the bills and offered work-from-home options. That was fine for a while. The first few months were like a vacation. I set up a killer gaming PC I'd built years ago, finally able to use it for more than just playing shoot-'em-ups on the weekends. I liked the freedom. But the longer I stayed inside, the more the walls seemed to close in. And the company, they started pushing for more in-person collaboration, but it was all half-hearted, vague. Then the satellite offices opened. Places like that Wendy's Point, a franchise in a deserted shopping plaza downtown, were supposed to be convenient, safe options for people needing human contact. No thanks. It was a red and white box with a giant plastic Frosty on the sign, the smell of greasy fries wafting into the parking lot from the open door. I came in at 6 p.m., the late shift, when most of the lunch rush was gone, and only a handful of customers lingered over cheap burgers and fries. The fluorescent lights flickered in the high ceiling, and the cheap vinyl booths smelled like a mix of spilled soda and something sour I didn't want to identify. Behind the counter was a girl I barely knew, Maggie. She was in her early 20s, always tired but never rude. She nodded at me as I clocked in. "Long day?" I asked, grabbing a soda from the fridge. Could be worse," she said, her voice low. "Boss said we might get a delivery party later, like a big group. Always a mess." I smiled politely. I liked Maggie. She was straightforward, no drama. I took my station at the side near the drive-through screen. My job was simple: prep orders, keep the soda machine running, make sure the fries were fresh. I usually distracted myself with music through my earbuds, but tonight the static seemed louder than usual. Something about the place felt off. Around 7 p.m., my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number. "I see you, Ethan." I stared at the screen, heart skipping. Probably a prank, right? I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. I laughed it off and turned back to the counter. But then the drive-through speaker crackled to life without anyone pressing the button. Static, then a voice. Low, distorted. "Come to the back, now." I froze. The restaurant was nearly empty. Maggie was restocking napkins behind the register, humming to herself. I blinked and the voice was gone. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the weird voice as a glitch. Maybe a prank call on the drive-through system? I hoped so. "Maggie," I said, lowering my voice. "Did you hear that?" She looked up, eyes narrowing. "Hear what?" Some static, then a voice. Sounded like someone telling me to come to the back. Her brow furrowed. That's not good. Sometimes the speaker acts up, but a voice? That's new. I forced a chuckle. Yeah, probably just some tech issues. Still, a knot tightened in my stomach. I checked my phone again. No new messages. The restaurant was quiet except for the usual fryer hum and the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead. I glanced at the security monitor behind the counter. Just the usual empty dining room and the parking lot outside. Nothing suspicious. Still, I felt like I was being watched. About 20 minutes later, the door chimed, signaling a new customer. I glanced up. A man in his late 30s, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans, shuffled to the counter. His eyes darted around nervously. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "What can I get you?" He barely looked at me. "You're Ethan, right?" I blinked. "Yeah. How do you know that?" He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I see you, Ethan." My skin prickled. "Look, I don't know what this is about." "You don't get to ignore me," he cut in, voice low and harsh. "Not anymore." Maggie appeared behind him, a worried frown on her face. "Sir, you need to leave if you're going to cause trouble." The man turned, sneering. "She's useless." I stepped closer, trying to keep calm. "Listen, you're making a mistake." He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, sliding it onto the counter. I unfolded it. It was a screenshot of my home address, taken from Google Maps. "You've been very lazy," he said, thinking no one's watching. But I'm always watching. I felt my throat tighten. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaky. The man just laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed in the quiet restaurant. "I'm the consequence of ignoring the warnings." Before I could react, the door chimed again. 2 police officers stepped inside, their eyes scanning the scene quickly. "Sir, step away from the counter," one barked. The man didn't argue. He dropped the paper, shoved his hands in his pockets, and walked out slowly, disappearing into the night. Maggie exhaled sharply. "Jesus, Ethan. What the hell was that?" I shook my head, still trying to catch my breath. "I don't know, but this just got real." I hated the sound of footsteps, especially the ones that dragged. There was something unbearable about them, like nails slowly scratching against the walls of my brain. I couldn't explain it well, not to Dr. Molina, not to the last 3 therapists either. They always asked the same questions. When did it start? Why do you think it bothers you so much? What do you think it means? But I knew what it meant. It meant they were still here. Humans. Their noise, their stench, their careless shuffling all over a planet they didn't deserve. I wasn't born with this hatred. It came slowly, like mold, like decay. It began the day I held my father's hand in the hospice and watched the strongest man I knew blink into frailty. Watched the nurses change his sheets, ignore his murmurs, pretend not to notice him soiling himself while his mind drifted far away. He was still alive, technically, but that wasn't life. It was a dragged-out ending, a cruel one. They let him die like that, slowly, quietly, forgotten. That was the day the world changed for me. I wasn't homeless, and I wasn't crazy, at least not in the way people think. I lived in a small basement apartment behind a liquor store in a quiet corner of Denton, Indiana. People hardly noticed me, which suited me just fine. I worked odd jobs online, delivered groceries under fake names, paid cash, and kept my distance. Every evening around 8 p.m., I'd sit out back on the cracked patio chair that faced the alley and watch the sun melt behind the laundromat across the road. It was peaceful, except when he came. The old man. He shuffled past every evening around the same time, dragging his damn boots across the sidewalk like he was scraping off pieces of himself. He didn't say anything, didn't look up, just walked. Slow, deliberate, sounding like regret personified. Skrrr, skrrr, skrrr. The first time I let it go. The second time I bit my tongue. But by the 6th or 7th night, something in me started to itch. I couldn't explain it. Just that every time I heard that sound, something cracked inside me. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I stood there watching him pass, cigar between my lips, fingers trembling. The sun dipped low behind him, casting his silhouette long across the pavement. I hated that he looked content. And then he did something he had never done before. He stopped and waved. Just a simple little wave like we were neighbors or old friends. His eyes, black, beady, smiling, met mine. There was recognition in them, familiarity. He shouldn't have been able to see me. No one ever did. See? That was the strange part about me. I could walk through a store, pick up a burger off a tray at a Wendy's, and leave. No one ever saw. Not the cashiers, not the security cameras. I wasn't invisible, not really, but it was like I didn't exist. Like I wasn't supposed to be seen. Once I grabbed the biggest Baconator from the counter of the Wendy's on 4th Street and sat outside under the awning eating while people passed just inches away. No one said a word. No one glanced. It was like I was in a bubble. So how did he see me? That night, I followed him. I don't remember drawing the knife. I just remember holding it. Sharp, clean, familiar. My feet moved before my mind did, trailing the old man's dragging steps until I caught up and buried the blade into the nape of his neck. There was no scream, just a gasp and then stillness. The blood pooled quickly, spreading like spilled ink. I wiped the blade on his sleeve, stepped back, and watched. A little boy spotted the body first. People rushed in. Voices rose. Someone screamed. I walked away. No one noticed. Just like always. The next night I went back to the Wendy's. Sat inside this time. Corner booth. Same as before. I swiped another burger. Some teenager had ordered it and stepped away for extra ketchup. They didn't even look up when it vanished. I watched the window. Watched the world. But then I heard it. Skr. 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 I froze. I knew that sound. My entire body clenched. I turned slowly, sweat already beating on my neck. There he was, the same man, the same shuffling gait. No blood, no wound. Smiling, waving. Again. I rushed outside, knife in hand. He was a few yards ahead, turning the corner past a darkened barbershop. I chased after him, heart pounding. This time I noticed something I hadn't before. Scars. Long layered scars across the back of his neck. As if he'd been stabbed over and over again. As if I'd stabbed him over and over again. "Hey!" I shouted. He didn't turn. I followed, this time more cautiously. The streets were alive around me, cars honking, people talking, neon signs buzzing. But none of it mattered. I couldn't hear anything over the sound of his steps. Skrr. Skrr. We passed a toy store. Then he stopped. "I see you," he said without turning. I froze. "You shouldn't be able to," I whispered. He turned slowly, his face pale, beard white, eyes blacker than night. "I see myself," he said. "What?" I stepped back. "You keep killing yourself, Tony." The name hit me like a slap. No one called me that anymore. That's not my name. It was. "You're 45, and still angry. Who are you?" He took a step closer. "I'm you. The part of you that you tried to bury. The part that remembers the pain, the loss, the helplessness." I shook my head. "This isn't real. You hate the footsteps because they remind you of him. Your father, dragging his feet to the bathroom, dragging them across the floor when he couldn't stand straight anymore. You watched him become this. Me. My legs gave out. I sank to the sidewalk. You tried to disappear. You did a good job. No one sees you. Not even yourself." The next thing I remembered was the soft clink of a clock and the scent of chamomile. I blinked. Soft beige walls. Books. A plant in the corner. A voice. Gentle. Almost apologetic. "You were speaking again. I thought we were making progress. Dr. Molina." I looked up at her. Young, with sad eyes. Too kind. "You live in your head most of the time, Paul," she said. Paul. Not Tony. I felt a jolt. What was real anymore? "I saw him again," I said. "The old man?" I nodded. He said I keep killing myself. Dr. Molina didn't flinch. "And what do you think that means?" I stared down at my hands. They were shaking. Maybe I hate what I'm becoming." Silence filled the space between us like fog. She leaned forward. "You said he waved at you?" "Yeah. That wave, What if it wasn't mockery? What if it was a plea? A plea? For peace, for forgiveness. Maybe you're not trying to kill that man. Maybe you're trying to connect with him. I blinked hard. Your father suffered, Paul. And yes, maybe the world let him down. But you didn't. You were there. I tried to breathe, but the air felt too thick. You hated seeing him like that. And now that you're aging, you're terrified of turning into him. My voice was barely a whisper. I didn't want to forget him. You didn't, she said. You became him. In every quiet moment, every dragged footstep, every cigar you light. That night I went back to Wendy's. I didn't steal a burger, I ordered one, paid cash, sat in the corner booth. People walked past outside, some looked in. One kid waved at me, probably mistaking me for someone else. I waved back. The burger was warm, juicy, real. I listened for the footsteps. Skrrr, skrrr. They never came. Just the soft hum of life, the clatter of trays, laughter from the kitchen. A woman yelling at her kids to stop kicking the table. I smiled. It felt strange on my face. Maybe the doctor was right. Maybe I had been disappearing. Maybe it was time to try something else. To live. Sometimes. I didn't think my life would turn into a storm, literally or figuratively, when I started working full-time at Wendy's. It was supposed to be temporary. I dropped out of high school when my mom got sick and needed help with bills. My plan was simple: take a year off, help out, get my GED, then figure things out. That was 6 years ago. Life doesn't always stick to plans. Rent kept coming, groceries didn't get cheaper, and medical bills piled higher than our daily drive-through orders. So Wendy's became home by default. The red and yellow colors, the hiss of the fryers, the monotone, "Welcome to Wendy's, what can I get for you today?" became the backdrop of my life. By the time I was 23, I had done every job in the store: grill, fries, drive-through, front register, cleaning tables, mopping vomit, even dealing with the night shift creeps who thought a fast food cashier also owed them a smile. But the worst part wasn't the work. It was that Daryl, the shift manager, had it out for me, always assigning me the worst shifts, always talking down to me like I was a kid who'd never grow out of her apron. But I needed the job, so I kept my head down and did the damn work. That's how I ended up on the closing shift the night the storm came. The forecast had been warning about severe weather all week. Thunderstorms, high winds, possible tornadoes. Everyone in town was bracing themselves. The sky that afternoon looked sick, greenish-gray with clouds hanging like a threat. Every other fast food joint on Main Street had already posted early closing signs. Except us. "Daryl," I said as I tied my apron in the break room, "you really think it's safe to stay open?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "We close when corporate says we close. Besides, ain't even raining yet." "Yeah, but it's coming," I said, glancing out the window where the trees were swaying more than usual. "Then bring an umbrella. Or better yet, bring a backbone." That was Daryl. He liked to flex whatever power he thought he had, especially on me. To make things worse, we were short-staffed. One of the teens who usually worked with me had called out sick. My usual buddy on the line, Marcus, didn't show up at all. I texted him, but it just said, "Delivered." No reply. My stomach twisted. By 8 p.m., the wind had picked up. Rain started tapping at the windows, gentle at first, then harder. I kept checking the weather app between orders. Tornado watch, then tornado warning. I glanced at Daryl again. "We should be shutting down." "Not unless a funnel cloud is eating the drive-through," he said with a smirk. By 8:37 p.m., most of the customers had cleared out. I wiped the counters while the rain pelted the glass in sheets. The power flickered once. I froze, looking up. The fluorescent lights buzzed back to life. "Just a brownout," Daryl muttered, barely concerned. He was scrolling through TikTok on his phone, earbuds in, leaning against the supply closet door like it was a lounge chair. That's when the door chime rang. Ding, ding. I looked up, expecting to see someone dart in for shelter. Instead, I saw him. I didn't know his real name. I called him Mr. No Pickle. A few days earlier, he had come in during peak lunch rush and thrown a full tantrum over a single pickle slice being on his burger. He made me remake his meal 3 times, called me stupid, held up the line, filmed me on his phone, then emailed corporate. Because of him, Daryl gave me a warning and docked my hours. And now, there he was, standing in the doorway, soaked from head to toe in the storm. But what got me wasn't that he was back. It was the smile on his face. "Y'all still open?" he asked, shaking off like a dog. Daryl nodded, eyes still glued to his phone. "Yeah, she'll help you." I stared at the man, my stomach dropping. "Hi, what can I get for you?" I said flatly. Same as last time. Baconator, fries, no pickles, and a large Coke. Absolutely no pickles this time. He smiled wide, revealing teeth too white to be real. I nodded stiffly, punched in the order, and went to the grill. As I slapped patties on, I could feel him watching me, his reflection bouncing off the stainless steel behind the line. Then the power cut. Complete darkness swallowed the restaurant. I dropped the spatula. "Oh shit," Daryl muttered, yanking out his earbuds. "Backup lights will kick in." They didn't. The silence was loud. No fryers, no vents, no music. Just the wind howling outside and the faint thunk of rain pelting the roof. "We should head to the back," I said, my voice tight. "We're fine," Daryl said. "Power's probably just flickering again." Then I heard it, a roaring sound, like a train was barreling toward us. But there were no tracks near here. The customer walked toward the counter unfazed. "I still want my Baconator." I blinked. "Are you serious right now?" "I came all this way." I stepped back from the grill. "Sir, there's a tornado warning. We need to move to the freezer or back room." He didn't budge. Outside, the sky was black, and through the flickering emergency lights, I could see debris swirling in the air like angry confetti. Daryl finally stood up straight. "All right, everyone get to the walk-in cooler, now." The customer slammed his fist on the counter. "Not until I get my food." "Are you out of your mind?" I snapped. "We're about to die, and you want a sandwich?" He leapt over the counter. I stumbled back, heart hammering. He grabbed my collar. "You owe me a damn Baconator." That was it. I shoved him off with everything I had, bolting toward the exit as Daryl yelled something behind me. I didn't stop. I flung open the door, the wind nearly knocking me down. I dove into my car, hands trembling as I fumbled the keys. The air outside was deafening. As I reversed, a roar erupted from the sky. I looked in the mirror and saw the tornado. A swirling column of darkness growing larger by the second, heading straight for Wendy's. I screamed. Tires screeched. But it was too late. The wind grabbed the back of my car, lifting it off the ground like a toy. My scream turned into a sob as I gripped the wheel powerless, and then, wham! The car slammed back down. I hit the gas. The tires caught. I sped away, heart thundering, eyes locked on the rearview mirror. Behind me, Wendy's disappeared into chaos. The funnel swallowed the building like it was made of paper. It was all over in minutes. Later, they said it was an EF3 tornado. The only building destroyed on the block was our Wendy's. The cops and rescue crews found wreckage strewn half a mile away. One body was found in the debris. Male, white, mid-30s. No ID. I knew who it was. Daryl survived. He'd made it to the freezer just in time. He quit a week later. As for me, I didn't get my hours back. Hell, I didn't even get a severance, just trauma, night sweats, and a recurring dream of that man demanding a Baconator while the sky tore itself apart outside. They called him the Baconator Bandit on social media once the story went viral. But to me, he'll always be the guy who chose a burger over survival. Let people laugh. Let them share memes. I lived it, and I'll never work in fast food again. I used to think chili was my comfort food. Back before all this, before the headlines and the vomiting and the therapy, I worked third shift at a fulfillment warehouse outside of Dalton, Georgia. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. I lived alone, mostly kept to myself. I'd clock out at 11:45 p.m. sharp every night, bone-tired, aching in the knees, and hungry in that way only night shift workers understand. When nothing in your fridge will do, and every restaurant but the greasiest of drive-thrus is closed. So for me, it was Porter's. Not a chain most people know. Porter's was a regional fast food place kind of like Wendy's, with the red and white logo, square burgers, and this cheap but somehow addictive chili. It wasn't great by any culinary standard, but it was familiar. Simple, predictable. They stayed open until 1 a.m., which made them perfect for someone like me. I went once a week, maybe twice if I was too exhausted to cook. Always got the same thing: a large chili with shredded cheese and onion on top, 2 packets of crackers. I'd eat it on the couch in silence, sometimes with the TV on low. That was the routine for almost 3 years. The place was small, just a 2-lane drive-through and a flickering neon sign out front. Late at night, there were rarely more than 2 people working, usually the same tired-looking cashier and a guy in the back who I never really got a good look at. For the first couple years, it was just fine. The chili always tasted the same, bland but comforting. I'd microwave it the next day for lunch sometimes. But then, slowly, things started to change. It was sometime in early spring, one of those weird Georgia weeks where the weather can't decide if it's winter or summer. I pulled through the drive-thru like usual, gave my order, and waited under the buzzing yellow lights. The girl working the window handed it over with a tight smile, and I drove home, still warm in my hoodie. I didn't even wait to get settled. I peeled off the lid at my kitchen counter and took a bite. Something was wrong. It wasn't spoiled or rancid. It wasn't even that it smelled off. It just tasted different. The flavor was muddy, like the meat had been overcooked or maybe sat too long. There was a strange, almost metallic aftertaste, and the texture of the beef was off. One piece was so soft and mushy that it practically melted in my mouth like wet paper. I gagged a little but forced the bite down. I thought maybe they'd messed up the batch. No big deal. The next week, same thing. And the week after that. A part of me wanted to say something, but I didn't want to be that customer. The one who complains about fast food like it's a 5-star restaurant. Still, on the 4th week, when I took a bite in the parking lot and found the same strange flavor lingering on my tongue, I decided I had to speak up. I pulled back around the building and tapped on the drive-through window. The cashier from before, a skinny girl with a nose ring and dark circles under her eyes, looked startled. She opened it hesitantly. "Hey, sorry," I said, trying to sound polite. "I just wanted to ask if y'all changed something with the chili recipe recently. It's tasted different the last few times." She blinked at me. "I don't think so. We don't make it here. It comes prepped from the distributor." "Oh, okay. Just curious." I could tell she wanted to shut the window, but something in her expression made me pause. She looked tense, almost like she didn't want to say more. Then she added, "But the guy who usually preps the chili at night, he's out tonight. New guy's in the kitchen." I nodded, thanked her, and drove off. I didn't think much more of it, just figured it was a fluke or a bad batch. Maybe they were cutting corners. But then, things got worse. I started having stomach cramps. Nothing too serious at first. Just an uneasy feeling the morning after I'd eat the chili. Sometimes I'd get up in the middle of the night and feel this sharp, twisting pain in my gut. I chalked it up to stress. My job was rough, and I wasn't eating great to begin with. But after a couple months, I noticed a pattern. The pain always came the night I ate the chili, and it was getting more intense. I started avoiding the stuff, told myself it wasn't worth it. But I missed it. Isn't that stupid? You get attached to the little things that keep you grounded. A food, a routine, a sense of normalcy. After about a month off, I gave in and went back. This time, the chili tasted better. Not just better, it tasted right. The way it used to. I practically inhaled it. The next day I felt fine. I figured maybe whatever the issue was, it had been fixed. So, I made a habit of checking. If the cashier working the drive-thru was that same girl with the nose ring, the chili always tasted weird. But when there was a different team working, it tasted normal. One night I asked the cashier, this time a guy with short dreads and a quiet voice, if they had someone new cooking recently. He hesitated, looked over his shoulder, then said, "Yeah, they moved Ricky to a different shift." "Ricky?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Tall guy, beard, real quiet. You probably saw him if you came through late." I thought back. I remembered seeing someone through the kitchen window once, a guy with deep-set eyes and a weird, beetle-like face, just standing back there, not moving much, watching. "Why'd they move him?" I asked. The kid shook his head. "Dunno. Heard something happened, but they don't tell us much." A few days later, I found out the truth. I was scrolling through my phone during break at work, half asleep and zoning out. Then a local news alert popped up. I tapped it. Former Porter's employee under investigation after tampering allegations. I felt a chill run through me. The article was vague, probably for legal reasons, but it mentioned a man named Richard "Ricky" Dunn, who had worked the night shift at the Porters in Dalton. The story claimed that management had received anonymous complaints and finally launched an internal investigation. Ricky had allegedly been caught on camera contaminating the chili during his shifts. Authorities were still investigating the extent of the tampering. They didn't specify what he had done, just that it was bodily in nature. There was a mugshot. It was him, the guy with the two wide eyes and that dead stare. I dry heaved in the employee bathroom for 10 minutes. For days after, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the times I'd eaten that chili, the batches that tasted off, the texture. That one time I thought a piece of meat had the consistency of wet tissue. I couldn't get the thought out of my head. What if it wasn't meat? I called out of work, threw out every dish in my kitchen that reminded me of those nights. My couch still smelled faintly of it. My car had packets of crackers under the seat from God knows when. Everything made me gag. And still, the worst part wasn't just the physical disgust, it was knowing how long it went on. 2 years. Maybe more. That man had been cooking for me, watching me from that kitchen window, smiling while I unknowingly swallowed whatever it was. I called the health department. They couldn't confirm anything because of the ongoing investigation. I told them I might have been one of the customers exposed. They just asked if I had any symptoms and told me to see a doctor. I didn't. I couldn't bear the idea of being tested for that. Now, months later, I still drive past that Porter's every night on my way home. It's still open, still has customers, but I haven't eaten fast food since. I can't even smell ground beef without getting nauseous. Some nights when I'm lying in bed, I swear I can still taste it. That faint, bitter flavor, that soft, unchewable chunk, that metallic aftertaste. I try to tell myself it was just a bad recipe, a change in ingredients, that the stories were exaggerated. But then I see his face in my mind, that slow, lingering stare. That moment when he asked, "So what was your question, sir?" And I wonder, how many people did he serve? How many never noticed? How many still don't know? Evan sat behind the counter of Red Oak Wendy's, his shift nearly over, but the dining room still half full with late-night customers. The hum of the fryers and the beep of the register were familiar white noise by now, the rhythm of a job he'd had for 3 years. "Evan, you good back there?" His manager, Lisa, popped her head out of the office, wiping sweat from her brow. "Another hour, then you're free. How's your mom doing?" Evan forced a smile, despite the weight he felt in his chest. "She's hanging in there. Chemotherapy's rough, but she's tough." His voice cracked slightly, barely masking his exhaustion. Lisa nodded, giving him a sympathetic look. "I know it's tough. Let me know if you need time off, okay? Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate it. Evan's fingers tightened around the receipt roll. The stress from home had been following him all day, and tonight, more than usual. As a teenager, he never imagined he'd be flipping burgers at a fast food joint, not with a promising college scholarship just out of reach after his mom got sick. The bills piled up. Every extra hour at Wendy's counted. He glanced at the clock, 10:45 p.m. A group of college kids laughed at a table by the window, phones out and selfies in progress. The familiar glow of their screens made the place feel less lonely. The store's security cameras monitored every angle, but Evan sometimes wondered if anyone ever really watched them. His computer screen blinked, the order system flashing for the next customer. He punched in the details, calling out the number as the fries finished. "Order 82, he announced. No one responded. Strange. Evan looked up toward the counter. No one waiting. A feeling of irritation mixed with confusion. Maybe someone had stepped outside to smoke, or just wandered off. He shrugged and turned back to clean a ketchup stain off the counter. Minutes passed. Then the ding of the order system again, an email notification popping up on his small work terminal screen. Curious, he tapped the icon. An anonymous message blinked in a plain, unformatted font. "You're being watched, Evan." He frowned. What the hell? He scrolled down. No sender address, no signature, just those 3 words. His mind raced. A prank? Maybe one of the night crew messing around? He typed back cautiously. "Who is this? What do you want?" Seconds later, the reply arrived. "I see you. The brown jacket, the cracked watch on your wrist, your sloppy posture." Evan's breath caught. He glanced down at his worn leather jacket, his wrist, the old watch his mom had given him. How did they know that? His eyes darted to the windows. Outside, the parking lot was almost empty, just a street lamp flickering in the distance. He swallowed hard, feeling a chill despite the summer heat. Trying to steady his shaking hands, he typed, "Stop. This isn't funny." No reply. His heart thudded. Evan shook his head, blaming exhaustion. Probably some idiot hacker trying to freak me out. He logged off the email, focusing on the orders piling up again. But as he worked, the notifications kept coming, cryptic, detailed, and growing more personal. That nervous tick in your left eye. Your sneakers are untied. Your favorite game at home is Shadow Realm. You play it too much. Evan's stomach twisted. How could they know all that? He glanced at the security monitor. No unusual activity. Just the regular empty booths and the night janitor moving slowly through the back hall. He forced a laugh under his breath. "Get a grip, man." He tried to brush it off, but when the clock struck midnight, his terminal froze completely. The screen flickered, then a message appeared. "You've been enrolled." Beneath it were 2 options, yes and no, blinking as if daring him to choose. His finger hovered over the mouse. Enroll in the new satellite office as a full-time employee? Evan frowned. Satellite office? What was that? He blinked, feeling a strange pressure in his chest. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a text from an unknown number. "Welcome, Evan. We'll be watching." His breath hitched. The fast food restaurant suddenly felt far less safe. The next day, Evan showed up at work earlier than usual, hoping to shake off the strange messages from last night. The fluorescent lights in the break room buzzed overhead as he gulped down lukewarm coffee. His manager, Lisa, noticed his pale face and jittery hands. "Evan, you okay? You look like you didn't sleep." He forced a smile. "Just a rough night. Mom's chemo kicked her bad yesterday." She nodded sympathetically. "If you need time off, you know where to find me." He appreciated her kindness, but didn't want to burden her with his paranoia. Back at the counter, the email notifications had stopped. Or so he thought. Around noon, his work terminal beeped. A new message popped up. "You accepted." "Good," Report to the new location tomorrow at 9 a.m. He frowned, confused. There was no official memo or HR email about any new location. A glance at the scheduling app showed nothing unusual. Trying to focus on his job, Evan served customers, but the message gnawed at him. Who was watching him? How much did they know? Was this a threat? He debated telling Lisa, but dismissed the idea. She had enough on her plate without this sounding like a crazy story. That night, back in his cramped apartment, Evan's nerves frayed. His laptop wouldn't turn off. The screen glitched repeatedly, flickering strange shapes and static. His phone buzzed constantly with texts from the anonymous sender. "You can't run, Evan. You belong to us now." His hands trembled. The flickering light cast shadows that seemed to creep closer. Exhausted, he finally fell asleep on the couch, the glowing screen his only nightlight. At exactly 3 a.m., he woke up sweating. His body felt numb, electricity pulsing beneath his skin like invisible wires attached to him. He bolted upright, heart racing. The phone lay on the coffee table, screen alive with a new message. Report in person tomorrow, no exceptions. The next morning, driven by fear and curiosity, Evan found himself in front of a small, nondescript building on the edge of town. No signs, no markings, just a flickering neon light that buzzed faintly. He hesitated. What if this was some trap? Yet something compelled him to walk in. Inside, the air smelled sterile and cold. Fluorescent lights flickered above, revealing rows of desks with blank computer monitors. At the far end of the room, a middle-aged man in a plain suit approached. "Evan, welcome. We've been expecting you." His voice was calm, but there was an unnerving edge. "Who are you?" Evan asked, voice shaking. "You don't remember? We offered you a chance to join a special project, a satellite office." Evan's mind reeled. "I never agreed to this. Those emails. Who sent them?" The man smiled thinly. "We just wanted to be sure you'd come. This is an opportunity, Evan. You're not just an employee now. You're part of something bigger. What do you want from me?" Evan's panic rose. "To monitor, to observe, to report. Your home, your habits, everything is data. You agreed to this when you clicked yes last night." Evan shook his head, backing away. "Number, I never clicked yes. I never agreed to anything." The man's smile faded. "We have proof you did. Don't make this difficult." Evan ran. Back on the street, he swallowed the lump in his throat. His phone buzzed again. "You can't escape, Evan. The contract is binding." The terror settled deep in his bones. He wasn't just being watched. He was trapped. Over the next days, the emails continued. Schedules, instructions, even detailed criticisms of his work performance at the restaurant. He tried to quit Red Oak Wendy's, but every email warned him against it. His friends noticed he was slipping. His jittery hands, dark circles under his eyes, his distracted stares. One evening he confided in his best friend Maya. "I'm being followed, or watched. I don't know how, but someone knows everything about me." Maya frowned, worried. "Evan, maybe you should go to the cops." He shook his head. "What can they do? There's no proof, just these creepy messages. It's like a game I can't win." Maya put a hand on his shoulder. "I'm here. We'll figure this out." But Evan's world spiraled. One night, alone in his apartment, his laptop lit up by itself. A video played, footage of him entering the small building the other day. "Who's watching me?" he whispered. The screen flickered again. A distorted voice echoed. "You agreed to serve. Now you must perform." His phone buzzed with one final message. "Work your shift. Or else." On his next night shift at Wendy's, Evan felt eyes burning into his back. He kept glancing at the door, the windows, the security monitors. The email pinged again. "Performance review. Late again. This won't be tolerated." The fear was suffocating. He wondered if this was all in his head. Weeks passed. Evan's health deteriorated. The stress and exhaustion took their toll. One evening, his manager, Lisa, confronted him. "Evan, you're not yourself. If something's going on, tell me." He hesitated. "I'm being watched, controlled. I can't explain it." She frowned. "Look, you might need to see someone. Maybe a doctor." He nodded, knowing she was right but unable to explain the nightmare. One night, overwhelmed, Evan turned off his laptop and phone for the first time in weeks. He sat in silence, breathing deeply. Suddenly, the power cut out.